All right, so I'm going to stop my presentation here, and this GPU mining opportunity is something that's really, exciting for the disruptive potential of LivePeer and for the community of orchestrator transcoders and miners out there who can kind of put these GPUs to use, make additional revenue, and power the supply side of the LivePeer network. And so we've been kind of hard at work pressing on enabling this. And I'm not sure if Josh is on the call to give an update on it, but he shared an update with me. Or do you want to maybe give an update?
Yeah, sure. Josh was supposed to be here, but he had a prior engagement, so he couldn't make it. However, he's been leading our GPU efforts. We currently have OpenPR, an open pull request with NVIDIA GPUs enabled, and that means basically you will be able to use hardware decoding, rescaling, and encoding if you have an NVIDIA chip, and that should definitely push the cost way lower compared to CPU encoding. We're currently still in the NVIDIA phase. We haven't supported AMD yet. We're working on that. Eli and I have been working also on getting the GPU-enabled build to be portable enough that we that if you have LivePeer, basically you have the executable. If you have the underlying hardware available, it will automatically hook up to that, and if you just enable the flag, it will be able to use the GPU. The performance numbers are still very early. We're currently testing it on various kinds of NVIDIA setups, and soon we'll be starting to test it on crypto miner rigs, basically. So that would allow us to encode video along with mining cryptocurrency, GPU-enabled cryptocurrencies, and that definitely should be very, very enticing to miners out there. And so this is where we are right now. It's very exciting, and we're hoping to share some numbers with you guys within a couple of weeks. And that's pretty much it for the GPU branch. Doug, back to you.
Yeah, super exciting. So one question to follow up, and I think you were describing this, but I think the user experience for a LivePeer node operator will be that if they have GPUs connected to their node, then they will, or to their machine, then essentially they will be able to just start the LivePeer node with a flag that indicates they are willing to do GPU mining, and the software itself should basically identify those GPUs and be able to leverage them as work is routed to them on the network. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. We will be able to choose which GPU if you have multiple GPUs, and we're working on multiple GPU setups as we speak. But yeah, currently that's exactly how you would be able to activate it.
Excellent. And yeah, Eric had gave me an update that he did some tests in one of the clouds with mining concurrently with with the transcoding, with the setup, and that was functional. And so, as you mentioned, next step, excited to actually use a more kind of crypto mining native rig to run some of these tests and get some benchmarks out of it as well.
Yeah, we're hoping to get that hopefully within a couple of weeks.
Excellent. Thanks, Yaya. Does anyone else have any questions on GPU mining track?
And so if Doug, just one question. If someone was looking to get started GPU mining, or if they I don't know, already had a traditional mining operation, how would they get started? Do they need to sort of get in contact with a transcoder and effectively sort of delegate to them or partner up with them, or how does that work? What's the first step?
Yep, good question. So I guess there's a couple different angles to address that from. So for example, right now, if they are looking to begin to test this software, they'd really be participating in almost the development process. It doesn't mean they're writing code, but they would be using one of the latest, custom builds off of a branch. They'd probably want to be communicating with the, the live peer development team and Discord to report bugs and stuff. And so, right now, if anyone's interested in doing that, I think that's great, but know that you're like participating in the development process, and it would be kind of a GitHub heavy, chat heavy process just to learn and to kind of get ahead of the curve. Once we go to testnet, then probably the best way to get involved would be, the software will be more of a package bundled release with some documentation at that point. And so then what you would do is you would probably just download the software and you would configure yourself to run as an orchestrator plus transcoder setup. And that opportunity would be available on the testnet. And so you would follow the instructions and run some tests, and up to you how long you want to leave it operating on the network to participate in the process. But kind of be opt-in, you'd be able to go end to end. Now on mainnet, in the future, you still have that choice of running that orchestrator transcoder setup, and that's the most kind of self-fulfilling, self-controlled way to compete and win work on this network, where you control both of those nodes. But that does require you to have some stake or to attract some stake in order to be an active orchestrator. If you just had GPUs and you didn't have any stake and you didn't have interest in running an orchestrator, then your best bet probably would be to form a partnership of some sort with a orchestrator who wanted to provide that role. And I think those partnerships probably are like business relationships, but they could be matched up through the community, form more organically, but there is a little bit of kind of trust assumption between an orchestrator and a transcoder, or at least a need to check the work in the initial rollout of Streamflow.
Okay, great, thanks.
Oh, okay. So if there's no more questions on the GPU track right now, let's get an update on the reliability track. And I think Angie is on the call and can provide that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think a good place to start is to just do a little bit of an update on something I think we talked about in the last community call, which is really this concept of having the ability to have multiple transcoders work with a single orchestrator. And that's something that we've recently merged into master. And that goes along with the 99.999% reliability. So it allows us to fail over if a transcoder is working or not working. And so what we're doing now is doing a lot of benchmarking around these separate nodes in order to come up with an optimal configuration for actually running the live peer network. And so that's important so that we can then turn around and tell our clients or tell anyone who's on the network what the ratio of orchestrators to transcoders or to broadcasters should be in order for the network to run effectively. And so what I've been working on recently is like really standardizing what this test configuration should be in order to really understand the performance characteristics that can be reused across a variety of tests. And so that includes standardizing transcoding options and number of segments to run the test over, number of concurrent streams, source stream and its characteristics, VM instances and configurations, number of nodes on the network and how much to provision per stream, and characteristics of the load. So how quickly we're ramping things up and how long does one stream last. And I think the most important test that I've been running recently has been to understand the performance of a single transcoding node on different machine types. And so using a consistent set of renditions and frames per second on video. And so I've been using Big Bug Bunny and pre-transcoding that video to ensure that segment length is consistent. And so we have consistency across all tests. And I've been testing using different machines. So the N1 high CPU 4, the N1 standard 8, the N1 high CPU 8, and then also the N1 high CPU 16 on Google Cloud. And so I think we've found that the machine type, the different machine types really does affect transcoding performance. And so we have essentially come to the conclusion, or this early conclusion, that we need more than 4 vCPUs to transcode 3 renditions at once in real time. And so, yeah, I think it's just a lot of playing around with all the different moving parts in the system and trying to figure out, get a better sense for how to scale and how many streams can work with a single orchestrator transcoder pair, or how many transcoders can be attached to a single orchestrator in any given number of stream situations in order for that to be successfully transcoded real time. And so, yeah, I have some numbers and I have some initial results, but I think we can share that more widely with the community once we finish running some of these tests. But I think this work is really going to get us to a place where we'll really be able to understand what the performance of our network can be given a number of different configurations.
Excellent. Thanks for the update, Angie. So to try and tie this back to what the output of this work is going to enable, one is, as we are trying to have this reliable internal preview for kind of early design partners, we'll be sure that our software is running in a high reliability way that meets their needs as they prepare to go, beyond the internal preview to mainnet. And then similarly, the output is going to be really helpful in recommending to public testnet transcode operators and public mainnet eventual transcode operators and orchestrators what sort of internal configurations and setups they may want to run if they're going to successfully compete for work and perform and win the work on the network and continue earning the fees. So it's going to be really, really helpful to the community.
Absolutely.
Great. And anyone else while I'm in on either of these tracks with anything to add or any questions? Nope. Okay. So, in the past, we've talked a lot about some of the protocol updates. So I did want to focus this call more on the GPU mining and the reliability updates. Just real quick on the protocol side, work is moving along nicely with the probabilistic micropayments into implementation and testing. Still work to do to get that kind of delivered into a build, but it's getting there. And then following that, there's kind of a track for payment accounting that nodes and broadcasters basically can mutually trust each other and continue doing work based on the deposit amounts and the payments that are coming through for the work that's being performed. And so these kind of the completion of these tracks are what will unlock the ability to go to testnet. I think Yanin might be on the call. Correct me if there's anything missing or incorrect there.
No, that sounds right.
Great. So I think that kind of completes the latest Streamflow update. Are there any other topics or questions that people wanted to talk about or ask about while we're here on the call today?
So I did just have one question, Doug. So as we sort of move into Streamflow, will the number of transcoders in the network remain fixed, or will that become uncapped?
Oh, good question. So the number initially will remain fixed, but the plan is that it's greatly expanded. So if we're at 25 active with 30 total right now, we like to expand to order of 100 active initially, as a first step. So that should dramatically kind of lower the bar to entry and beginning to compete on this network to a kind of a much lower amount.
Okay, great. That's helpful. And will we have a phase where there's like orchestrators and transcoders, but not GPU miners, or does that all sort of happen at once?
That should all be enabled by the software at once. Now, GPU miners actually coming onto the network, that's kind of up to them and the market. But we've spoken with many, and there are, a couple kind of eager design partner integrators who want to be well prepared to be online in the early days. And so I think it's likely you'll see it all come online at once.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. Well, if there's nothing else, I guess we can wrap up here. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll be back again in 2 weeks. If anyone has ideas for topics that they want to address, feel free to share them in the Discord, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.